Finally, some confirmation by Hiya that the prototype over at Wonder Fest in Shanghai was in fact different. So Hiya's over here experimenting with articulated dorsal plates. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name's DargonEvo, and today we are checking out the Wonder Fest 2024 Shanghai Showcase by HiyaToys. On the first half of this video, we're going to go over the MonsterVerse figures, and then on the second half, we're going to talk a little bit about these Heisei and Millennium Era figures, including the newly revealed Mecha King Ghidorah from the 1991 film. We got some new beautiful in-person images of Godzilla 2000, which we just checked out. There's a link for that video maybe up in that corner. Pre-orders are up right now on Koiskiss if you want to get your hands on him. There'll be a link in that video's description. But we'll go through these, talk a little more about all of these guys. Even GMK gets some love in this showcase. Like, look at this tail. This shit literally curls up. That's almost more impressive than S.H.Monsterarts. Then we have a nice row lineup shot of this display cabinet. Matter of fact, they kind of got 1991 Godzilla's tail a little perked. I know it's for this pose right here, but I guess you aren't looking at him from behind. But from this angle, you couldn't tell. It's to get that wicked action out of it. And last but not least, we get a sneak peek, which I say sneak peek. This is the event exclusive battle version Burning Godzilla, which is fully translucent with these lovely black painted tipped spines. This guy actually comes with interchangeable hands and accessory parts to use with King Ghidorah, allowing you to recreate when he rips his head off. What a beautiful sight indeed. Kind of like the shenanigans S.H.Monsterarts is pulling with their Beast Glove and their Scar King. So just to get the opportunity to buy this guy, you would have to go to this exclusive event. I feel like the only upside to it is the fact that Hiya is quite abundant, usually. So there will be a few more of these on the aftermarket than your typical S.H.Monsterarts event exclusive. Fingers crossed, but I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for this guy on the aftermarket. So starting off with a MonsterVerse display, we can see Shimo right off the bat in her unpainted prototype, looking as elegant as ever, standing right next to a crouched Kong, making her look bigger, but looking at her right next to Godzilla, who is neighboring her, we can see that she looks like she's in perfect scale. Which, remember, Hiya is bigger than S.H.Monsterarts, so I'm absolutely terrified to get my hands on the S.H.Monsterarts Shimo. Not because of the quality control, but because of its weight. I just hope it's going to be nothing like the S.H.Monsterarts King Ghidorah. But we can even see that beautiful articulation in Shimo's fingers. And I'm glad they gave her tail just enough length that she can comfortably stand back on it. That way you can get this pose. Here we have a shot of the display from behind. We can see what Kong's joints looking like. Slightly exposed. Definitely improved compared to the S.H.Monsterarts variant. Shimo is looking on point. This right here, I am lost for words. The amount of spikes she has is crazy. It looks like there's going to be plenty of gripping points or Scar King to hang on to whenever we do get that Hiya Scar King announcement. We can see a little more of that tail and all of that lovely articulation, looking glorious. Then to the right, we can see the Evolved Godzilla. Even in this crappy resolution, y'all can still see that high definition paint, and that tail spike on the tip right there looks splendid. Looking at his dorsals from behind, they do look actually really similar to the prototype right here. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, some confirmation by Hiya that the prototype over at Wonder Fest in Shanghai was in fact different from the painted figure that we got a glimpse at. So Hiya's over here experimenting with articulated dorsal plates. Now quickly, before you say this looks like a roof on Godzilla's back, we gotta think and consider why they're doing this. Now we look, this is the center dorsal plate, which is the largest one on his back. Having this on a ball joint will actually allow you to conceal some of those nasty gaps when you're trying to get those crunches out of him. So we blow both of these images up. We can see Shimo on the left of his face in this left photo right here with the improved articulation on that dorsal. And then to the right, we can see the previous photos we got almost 2 weeks ago with that same Shimo in front of Evolved Godzilla. Now this is a really crappy resolution, but we can see here to the left on how this dorsal spine is actually hiding that ball joint, and we can see how this is angled, but looking to the photo on the right, we can see that it's also angled. So this proves that in practice, this might be a really lovely feature to have that will allow you to get some sharp poses no matter what angle you throw them in. This is definitely going to be kind of controversial, but if you were to put this in the default position, it probably wouldn't look like it moves at all, because we can see that there's this massive gap in the upper back, which will sheath over this grotesque section. So this is only for the pose itself, which seems to give you this illusionary shot right here. Because looking at this photo right here, you would never be able to tell that that center dorsal spine was articulated. Hiya's really pulling no punches, and yet so close to the release date of this figure. Now this leaves the question up for debate, which one of these guys we're going to be getting. So this is the original promotional image of the Hiya Exquisite Basics, and this is what we were given at Wonder Fest. We do have that painted version to the right, but we don't have any high resolution shots of that guy. From my personal perspective, looking at all of his joints and all of his cutouts, he still matches up to these original promotional images that for this figure. Unless they're gonna hold out and save this for like a full power Evolved Godzilla or something like that, and go ahead and ship the non-articulated one that we've already seen. But we won't know until we get this guy in our hands. So y'all be sure to stay tuned for that review. They have all the same points of articulation, nothing new in that regard. With the way they have this tail curled, he looks absolutely savage. I love how slender his legs look, and even with the sucked in gut, it doesn't bother me. What does kind of bother me is how bulged out his shoulders are. Like looking at this photo here, it looks pretty okay on the painted version, but like plopping this photo up of Godzilla, we can see that he doesn't look that bulgy. But definitely switching back to this photo here, I think it's a quirk of the prototype. But regardless, these are going to be magnificent figures once they release. Especially Shimo right here. I know I kind of ignored these Spiral Studios figures over here. These do look very nice. You can pre-order these anywhere you'd pre-order your Hiya figures. They're definitely a good alternative if you don't like posing them. Before we go full Kong, here's a good shot of Kong next to Shimo. And a little bit about those hands. It looks like we have a fist, a holding hand, maybe a walking knuckle hand, and then we have an outreached grasping hand, which is very nice to see. Now I've said it once and I'm gonna say it again, they didn't paint his frickin' tooth. What is up with that? Like bro, how are they going to fail this twice? I would have thought that would have been the one thing they learned from S.H.Monsterarts. Even switching to this photo here, none of his extra heads have painted teeth. I do want to say his beast glove has some beautiful detail. This looks much better than the S.H.Monsterarts one, as much as I love S.H.Monsterarts. The molding and the hair and everything, this carries over from the Axe version of this Kong that we already checked out. That's absolutely a stunning Kong, probably the best Kong we've ever gotten. But so now you can choose if you want the one with the axe or the one with the beast glove. We don't know yet if he's gonna come with an axe, but with Hiya's reputation, I'm sure a full reveal will be right around the corner. So y'all stay tuned for that. There's a lot of low resolution shots, probably because this is in China and it's hard for certain media to escape, I could only assume. But we can get a look at his left hand and its accessories. So like with my suspicion with these beast glove extra hands, we have a gripping hand, same thing on his left hand, that walking knuckle pose, so you get that for both hands, and then you have your outreach or closed fist hand, which they have these swapped. So I love to see it. If he doesn't end up coming with the axe, it's gonna be pretty sad, because they're basically making you buy both figures if you want to have a complete set. Hate it or love it, it's part of the market, but I think it's cool that they're making two at all. Going on a little bit about Shimo and its prototype, she is identical to the reveal that you've already seen. Ruby Gaming did a great cover of this figure, showing off all of her points of articulation on how they match up. I don't need to show y'all that image because they are literally identical, but the thing that we gotta pay attention to is that every time we see these figures, their paint either gets better or they at least stay consistent, and that's something S.H.Monsterarts is struggling with at the moment. I'm very patient, and I'm not just gonna abandon a company because they have a few bad eggs, but this is truly a huge step for Hiya to set such a benchmark for the MonsterVerse line. Okay, so starting off with the other figures that were revealed, we can get a sneak peek at a resin casting of Mecha King Ghidorah. Now this is really blurry, but we can still see enough detail to make him out. We can see those heads with those wicked tongues. We have the restraining harnesses on the base of the necks, and you can see how that third mecha head is crafted different. And we can see a little bit of what looks like his missile on the top of his head. His wings do look very nice. I'm sure these are going to be a very nice metallic gold once we get a painted version. And I love that they have these little cars down here by his feet. One's just like flipped over. That's some attention to detail. His legs look like they're a good length. I wanted to point out that this middle part with his Godzilla restraints, this looks like we might be getting some accessories. This almost looks like it pops off to some extent, which would be no surprise looking at how S.H.Monsterarts did theirs. But I kind of fear this could be one of the most expensive Hiya figures yet. Here we can get a nice look on that prototype Mecha King Ghidorah from the back. His tail spikes look beautifully crafted. Once again, we can see that length. They've recreated these tails magnificently. Let's just hope they're not a pain to put on, like the MonsterVerse Ghidorah. But even the sculpt on the back looks great. These joints look very sturdy. That could be die-cast metal, but there's no way of knowing. I do like the sculpt on the back of the wings. Quite different from the front, obviously, because the front's supposed to have a gold reflective finish. You can look at that mecha head from the rear and those restraining collars. All of the detail here just looks absolutely amazing. So we go over to this photo right here. We can do a little bit of a zoom in. You can see that lovely grin on 91 King Ghidorah. Get a lovely look at those heads, but that's not what we're looking for. We can actually see Mecha King Ghidorah's head with those rear dorsal spikes. Looking at the silhouette of his head and his jaw, that looks absolutely beautiful. I was obsessed with Mecha King Ghidorah when I was a kid. I'm sure a lot of people were, and it looks like Hiya is bringing him justice. And then while we're on this image, we can get a look at the regular King Ghidorah, which I'm really looking forward to this figure. We can see how he has those rubberized wings, which give him all that posability. Something that I wish Tamashi did with theirs. And then next to him, we can see that LeBron James looking head ass Mecha Godzilla 2 towering over everyone else. I really can't believe how big this Godzilla is. Like, looking at this still right here, you can see how much bigger he is next to the 1991 Godzilla, and that's only 2 years older. I don't know if 93 Godzilla just grows in size, but maybe he is supposed to be much shorter than Mecha Godzilla 2. Who am I to judge? It just kind of throws me off because S.H.Monsterarts Mecha Godzilla 2 is not that big in comparison. And then we can get a nice front image of that King Ghidorah. I don't know what's up with these weird gaps underneath his base of his neck. Again, this is a prototype, so obviously these are probably going to have some sort of covers, but that does show off the articulation. So I could only assume that they're cooking up a solution to cover this up, so that's nothing to worry about. But he does look sexy indeed. And switching back to this image, we can see how short Outtro Goji is once more. Still loving that metallic. That looks glamorous. Scrolling down, we can see 91 from the side, and then his painted atomic version, which it's strange that they rushed this one out to get him painted. But I am loving that beam effect. This looks absolutely gorgeous. And then also on that King Ghidorah, we can see how long that tail is, which is honestly kind of surprising, to be honest. I would have expected that the end at about that third length right there, but I'm glad to see the accuracy. And then I'm not going to forget about GMK right here, which we've seen before, but we can see how curly that tail is. This one doesn't look disformed to get it to pose like this. It's just one of those things you don't know how it will feel until you get it in the hand. Just like a lot of the S.H.Monsterarts tails on a lot of the Heisei Era Godzillas. Each one is different, with some being more flexible than others. So looking at this right here sure says a lot. And same thing goes for 91's tail right here. Despite how blurry this image is, I do love how expressive this face looks. That almost looks lifelike. And then here's another look at that 1991 Godzilla from the back. I really like the color choice they went with for his paint and his dorsal fins. I feel like the matte finish really does it justice, but it contrasts so well with those dorsal fins. And then finally moving on to Outtro Goji's close-up. It's really more of the same, but we can see that beautiful wrist ball joint along with those middle bicep sections that we see on Evolved Godzilla. Again, this is for a showcase. They probably had the best artists in China paint these guys, but looking at that face, that looks oh so sexy. The transition on those teeth perfect. That menacing stare from those eyes, magnificent. That shimmery shine, glamorous. I hate to sound like I'm riding Hiya's dick, but this figure is, in fact, peak perfection. There aren't a lot of figures that stir up these type of feelings in you, like this guy right here, looking absolutely menacing from the front. They got his silhouette on point, and then this is a really good shot from the side. And I've mentioned in the past where I complained about the torsos on some of the figures looking bland. I want to look at King Ghidorah right here. Look how scaly he is. Oh my gosh, that almost looks like those could flake off. I know this is like a resin model, but that looks good. That looks really good. That legitly looks like scales. And then you just have GMK in the background over here, looking depressed because he didn't get more photos. But I think most of y'all are excited for this guy right here. Here's another shot of those Ghidorahs. We can actually see some waist articulation on the standard 91 Ghidorah, along with those hinges, and then we can see the fully rubberized wings in all their glory. A better look at those tails as well. Pretty much the same as the Mecha King Ghidorah. He looks very beastly, and again we have that great scale detail on his back. Really, this figure gives me goosebumps. I am so hyped for this. And his size just adds all to it. I just really hope that we get a stand so we can have these guys look like they're flying. So that's not all over at Wonder Fest. Here we can clearly see the HeatRay Godzilla translucent version from the 2014 film. This is actually the same figure that we saw at San Diego Comic-Con because he has the chipped dorsal fin. But they also have him out here with the female Muda, who is already released, next to the pre-evolved Godzilla, both which are magnificent figures. I highly recommend both of them. We can get a closer shot, which we do get a look at the beam effect, where we get to see his interchangeable head. So he doesn't have the neck piece like the Call to Arms head variant for the 2021 translucent MonsterVerse Godzilla. So this guy is just going to be able to straight up wield that atomic breath piece. I just hope his neck joint is going to be strong enough to hold it up, because anyone who has that 2021 HeatRay Hiya Godzilla, then they know what I'm talking about. But we also get 2x interchangeable hands, which is lovely to see. I'm sure we'll be getting a full reveal on this before too long. Here we can get a better shot on his back, but I do love the length of this tail. This has me really hyped. His legs kind of remind me of the Evolved Godzilla. They look kind of slender, honestly, but that might just be the perspective and the way they have him posed, because this tail is kind of drooping down, giving a large gap under his legs. Bad angling in photos can drastically change your perspective on a figure. Here we can get a shot of him from the front, looking awesome. We can see he has that improved articulation with that 3-point bicep. That's looking cool. Some people online were complaining that his neck was too long, and that this looks like they made it a little bit longer so he'll have increased articulation. I'm really excited that we got to see all of this. I definitely want to know what y'all think of these guys down in the comments, especially seeing Shimo in all of her glory, standing her max stable height. Remember, all of these are under approval process, and the final product may vary slightly. But we all know defects are a risk that you take when buying from any company. I'm going to try to get my hands on every one of these guys, including the S.H.Monsterarts side of things. So why not subscribe? It's free. It's the best way to stay tuned with everything. If you found yourself watching up to this point, I appreciate you watching. A like really helps out the channel, so please and thank you. My name's DargonEvo, and as always, have an amazing day.